Ladies, gentlemen, and miniatures of all ages, with Grounded 2 now out in early access, there is tons to do within the game. And if you are someone who is trying to explore everything on your way through, you probably have a lot of crafting to do to get there. For early game crafting, what you need are just lots of tier 1 resources of tons of different kinds, and so today we're going to talk about how to get every tier 1 resource, as well as any easy ways or locations for getting them more efficiently or in greater numbers for any of those that does exist for. First up on going in here, plant fiber. Super simple one. You can find this all over the ground out in the world, but you can also get it more efficiently once you unlock the grinder. You can stick weed stems into the grinder, and what you'll get is 8 plant fiber for every 1 weed stem that you put in, which is an incredible return. It does take a little bit of time, but the actual sort of effort required for the amount of plant fiber from this is fantastic. If, however, you want passive plant fiber gain, you can use the garden patch base item to plant fiber and get even more plant fiber out as a result. Or you can even stick in a full grass seed instead to get full stalks of grass, which will take a little bit longer to do, but does have a higher reward ratio, especially as you can then turn the grass planks from this into more plant fiber using the grinder once again. Grass seeds, while we are mentioning them, come from the grass flower specific plant, which looks like a clump of grass that is flowering at the top if you look up. As well, on the note of the garden patch, if you have mushrooms and want to get more, you can plant a mushroom to get a bunch more to come within here, and if you just want mushrooms to begin with in the first place, you can also just look around the larger mushroom stalks in general that you'll find in the world, and these will always have these tiny tier 1 mushrooms just all over them, all around them for you to pick up in large amounts. Next up are Pebblets. These are again all over the ground in the world, but once you have the Omni Tool bust function, you can find these slightly larger rocks around the place as well that you can then use the bust function on and open them up to create a bunch of tiny pebblets that you can then pick up a giant pile of all at once, nice and easy. Sap is really important as well. You can find this on tree roots or tree branches just all around the world very easily, and once you have the bust function again, you want to look for these sap clumps that are hanging from them as well, because you can then bust them open and make a ton of sap in a single go too. You can easily find one of these deposits right outside of the first ranger station, as well as 2 more sap deposits right out of the backside of the inner section of the ranger station in the sort of root systems that are in here. While we are in this location as well, let's talk about clay. Clay requires the Omni Tool dig function to acquire, and you will often find this in shallow bodies of water, like the one that is right out of the back of the ranger station on this inside section again, if you follow it down into this back corner, where there's a couple of clay deposits in here. Sprigs, again, these are just sort of all over the place, but if for whatever reason you want a more condensed spot for them, this place right here I've got a marker for on my map is like 20 sprigs in a very tight radius under this little plastic container, if you do want that. So it does exist. Clover leaves are super common as well. Sorry they look a little bit flashy on my screen. I have this graphical glitch sometimes, but you do have to chop these down in the main structure to make the leaves fall down and be actually pick upable. And there's actually a really nice patch of clovers just near that first ranger station, just over beside the large tree root beside the mushroom patch as well. On a similar note to this, there are dry grass chunks. This will mostly be used for torches early on, and for this you just need to chop down grass that literally does look dry. It is yellow instead of green, and again there is a really nice patch of this right near the first actual ranger station, but beware that there are some webby enemies that like this area as well. For weed stems, any weed will do, but the tier 1 option is dandelions, and these are really easy to recognize if you just look up at the top of the plants around you. Destroying these will also generate dandelion tufts down where the top of the plant drops as well, which you can use basically as a glider to get down from high areas safely, rather than falling and taking fall damage and then dying, of course. And if you're lucky, you might even get the fluffy dandelion tuft trinket as a drop as well when you destroy these, which you can use essentially as an infinite dandelion tuft. A lot of the basic bug materials are pretty obvious as well. Mite fangs and mite fuzz from mites, which are pretty common, but you can specifically find a load of mites in the back entrance to that first ranger station you get to in the story. Gnat meat and gnat fuzz you can get from gnats, which tend to hang out around any sort of puddle of water that you can find outside. Weevil materials and aphid materials come from their respective bug. There's no direct trick to these other than just noticing when they are around you and then hunting them down. For grub hide and grub sludge, you need to dig these little guys up from under the ground. You will hear digging and see a sort of burrowing effect on the ground, and then you can use the dig function of the Omni Tool. An important note is that you can also dig up larva enemies this way, which is how you get larva materials as well, and you can actually hear the difference between a burrowing grub and a burrowing larva. A larva is much of a deeper sound, it's louder, it's bassier, and it becomes easier to tell the difference after you've done it yourself a few times, but here's what a grub sounds like. And here's what the larva sounds like. Larva can also drop acid glands, but a much more prominent sort of source of farming these is from red ants, which also, of course, drop red ant parts. Any red ants can drop any of these, but the soldier red ants have a higher chance for the acid glands. Red ant soldiers are also how you get red ant mandibles, and these are easiest found in any of the anthill locations in the game. Same goes for red ant eggs too, these are also in the hills, and those are ingredients for the bombs. On the note of ant hills as well, these are the main place that you will find weapon and armor upgrading materials. The tier 1 upgrade materials are brittle marble shards and brittle quartzite shards, and you can get both of these with a level 1 busting omni tool by searching around the anthills, even the early ones. Slime molds are used to make alternative light sources as opposed to torches, and you can generally find these in most, if not all, underground locations, tunnels, or caves where it is dark and you would otherwise just struggle to see without them. An easy place to grab a bunch of these early on is again just out of the back of the first station in that underground area, where there are tons of slime mold stocks just to pick up on the walls, on the tree branches, just all around the place. For spoiled meat, as it actually is used as a crafting item, you simply get it by collecting meat from any of the bugs that isn't spoiled, then leaving it raw until it does spoil, because it is a timed thing, simple as that. For acorns, which are used for a lot of early building stuff and some decent equipment too, these will be on the ground just across the yard, but most densely populated near large trees. The safest tree near the starting area is directly south of the snack bar starting area. There are some somewhat dangerous enemies around the tree, but it's not too risky to travel here and search the outskirts of the tree for large amounts of acorns. Then we've got thistle needles. These are mostly required for things like arrows for people messing around with bows, and these mostly come from the thistle needle plants. If you look up when walking through the world, the plants that you're after are the ones with the pink flowers on top. Get close and you'll notice this plant has tons of thistle needles growing up the stem, and you just have to climb up the plant while vacuum up all the thistles one at a time, nice and easy. And you can do this a little bit easier on your ant, but the vacuum mode unfortunately doesn't work with jumping, so it is still a little bit awkward either way. Two final main things then. Flower petals are one of the later tier 1 unlocks, and these are most plentifully found around the picnic table north of the snack bar. There are some on the ground in the area as well, or there are just a bunch of petals and destructible flowers to make petals on the table itself. Then finally we have something that as a material is technically tier 2, but is essentially the thing that marks your entry into proper tier 2 stuff once you collect them. These are blueberry chunks. The easiest way to get an absolute buttload of blueberry chunks is also on the picnic table up at the top under the picnic blanket itself. There is a fully grown orb weaver roaming around under this as well, but there's just an absurd amount of blueberries in here. You can easily come back from a trip here with like 45 blueberry chunks that you can then turn into leather, which is how I got my ladybug armor set extremely early on in the story, and you don't even have to fight the orb weaver that is there if you don't want to. If you just play a little bit sneaky, give it a little bit of space. But I do recommend bringing the materials to make a lean-to around the picnic table for nearby respawns if you do try to do this early on. That just about does it then, everyone. Every relevant tier 1 material I can think of in Grounded 2, where they come from, and how to get them as efficiently as you can. I am hoping I didn't forget anything, but there also just isn't like a list of materials by tier, so if there's anything that you are looking for that was not mentioned here, please leave a comment and we'll get back to you with the answer. That said, if you're looking for tier 2 materials specifically, we will have a proper video dedicated to exactly that coming out in the near future as well. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out in the early stages of your journey in Grounded 2. Like if you liked the video, subscribe with the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.